I believe you know the members here.
Yes, I know most of them.
That's Honorable Amina Nyazi, MP Malindi. That's Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, member of this committee. That's Honorable Catherine Wambilianga, Women Rep Bungoma, and also a member of this committee. There is apologies from Governor Cecily Mbarire, who is attending to some event on the Tourism Week in Embu. There is apologies from the two senators, the majority leader in the Senate, and Honorable Senator Aaron Cheriot and Honorable Omugeni. The Deputy President will be joining us later today, who is the delegation leader on that other side. I'm sitting in myself for Honorable Kimani Shungwa, who has just stepped out for business in Parliament. I am Hassan Umar, member of IALA, and our able co-chair today, who is also the deputy leader of the delegation from Azimio, is Honorable Pio Andai, who is also the minority leader. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And
if we can restrict ourselves to the 20 minutes and then some interaction. I think the letter was explicit.
Thank you very much. I will be very brief. First, I want to thank the committee for inviting me. My name is Dr. Wilfred Mutubwa. I have put in my contribution in writing, dated 8 September 2023. I have addressed 3 thematic areas based on my background. I am an academic. I have also interacted with the electoral process, representing parties in election petitions, and also as a member of the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal. The views I give chairman are personal, my personal views, based on my understanding of the law and based on my understanding of the circumstances under which this committee is looking at these matters. Chairman and members,
The delegation you're having?
These are my associates.
Okay.
Yes, I will introduce them. This is Eric, Madam Kijala, and Mr. Joel. Those are all my students and associates in the office. Thank you very much. I will be very brief, Mr. Chairman. My contribution is in the area of the entrenchment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and some contributions on the area of electoral law reform. Mr. Chairman and members, the beginning point is to say that when we gather here in such an occasion, we are really taking an introspective view of our nationhood and our constitutional framework with a view to understand, number one, our legal history and our political culture. Mr. Chairman, my first proposal in terms of the entrenchment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary is founded on the understanding of our political history, our legal culture, and the framework within which we operate currently, the governance structure and the electoral system. Chairman, the long and short of my presentation on that particular aspect is to suggest that the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, in essence, in an abstract view, has been with us for a long time. In fact, if you psychoanalyze the processes that we have gone through, and I had the team before me speaking about it, 2008 constitutional amendment under the National Code, previously in various forms, we have had the semblance of this office in actual fact and not always necessarily in a legal structured way. So, Chairman, the suggestion that I have put forth is to say that the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary is an office that in itself is one of the offices that have been set out in our constitution, though not in very express terms. When I read the Constitution Article 152 and I look at the Constitution of the Cabinet itself, there is reference to Cabinet Secretaries without specific reference to the Prime Cabinet Secretary. So the question has always been, where exactly is this office located in the architecture of our governance system? And Chairman and members, my view is that the Prime Cabinet Secretary's position need not be entrenched in the Constitution by way of an amendment of the Constitution. The challenge we have had as a country in terms of framing our Constitution and legislative drafting is that we are too prescriptive, perhaps a reflection of our own insecurities in terms of drafting legislation and constitutions. So that, in a sense, whenever we take time to draft legislation or even draft the Constitution, we are anticipating, always anticipating difficulties. The view I take is that in drafting constitutional provisions, you have a framework. You have a general principle approach to governance. And when you look at the manner in which this constitution is framed, the office of cabinet secretaries is an office that is open in terms of the persons that will occupy the offices and the various dockets that will be created. However, the prime cabinet secretary, in my view, the prime cabinet secretary is simply a first among equals. A first among equals is somebody who occupies a position not necessarily outside the framework that already exists, but a first among equals. An office that, for instance, if you look at the Constitution, it does not say that the president will appoint a minister for agriculture. But there is a cabinet secretary, 24 maximum, and you will see that the discretion is left to the appointing authority to appoint such person. And I think when we look at our political history, one of the things that stands out is that the Constitution creates power, then disperses the powers, and creates checks and balances. What I have noticed, and what many scholars will tell you, is that in our setting, the disbursement of power is more or less usually done in a horizontal rather than vertical way. Because horizontally, you bring more people on the table, there is a feeling of inclusion, there is a feeling of participation, and there is therefore generally a sense of belonging in the state. And to say that this horizontal disbursement of power would only in the executive seat in the office of the president and cabinet secretaries is to suggest that perhaps the way we have agreed to govern ourselves is to have a clear hierarchical order of leadership. But this office presents a unique opportunity because one of the things I see as an advantage, and looking at what the Tanzanians have, for instance, and the Ugandans, although the Ugandan prime minister is actually a member of parliament, the prime cabinet secretary, the prime minister, is actually a person who is an executive, a chief executive. We have had comments in our system, or in our system of governance, that the president is a vision carrier. He is also the chief executive. He is also the implementing agency, and perhaps it would have been a bit more useful for the president to have a CEO, a person that can actually do the nuts and bolts. When you look at the Ugandan constitution, for instance, and the Tanzanian constitution,